First, thank you, Tariq, very much for the warm introduction. And I feel very happy, and it's a very special day for me addressing AmCham. I've been attending AmCham lunches since 2005. So this is the first time that I'm speaking at AmCham. And for those who know me, and given Tariq's reading out of my CV, everyone would have probably thought I would be talking about economics, IMF, or central bank issues. But anyway, tourism is none less than all of that. And I want to start the presentation, but someone needs to, okay, there we go. So as was mentioned, I was sworn in as Minister of Tourism actually exactly 11 months ago tomorrow. And every 14th of the month is a day that I keep on recalling because each day counts. When I first took this portfolio, it came as a surprise to me and to many of my friends and people who know me. But thinking about it a little bit deeper, tourism is one of the most important sectors in Egypt's economy. It represents 20% of GDP, and I'm going to talk about a few international trends as well. When I first took this job, there were so many outstanding problems and issues that had to be addressed immediately. And by sitting down with the private sector, by people from the ministry, people from the industry, other ministries, I realized that there's something in the narrative related to tourism that has to change. The way that we have been dealing with tourism to date has always been either counting the number of people we get, where do they come from. It's either solving an ad hoc problem here or crisis management there. We do well and then something happens, puts us off track a little bit. So I thought, okay, as I'm solving all these very hot topics, we need to sit down together and create a structural reform program. For those who are following Egypt, and all of us are, Egypt launched an IMF World Bank program in November 2016. And with international institutions, particularly the IMF and the World Bank, there are several pillars of reform. There's always the monetary policy pillar, the fiscal policy pillar, and then the structural reforms. Monetary policy and fiscal policy are more or less identified when it comes to what you need to do with respect to the exchange rate, with respect to taxes, with respect to cutting expenditures or trying to increase revenues. But then when we come to structural reforms, these are always done at a very sectoral level. Each sector has its own specificities, each sector has its own details, but the only way to push forward GDP, to create more employment, and to actually unleash the potential in any sector is to go through a structural reform program that addresses impediments or addresses problems that once they are solved can actually push the sector forward. And this is what I wanted to do in tourism, and this is what E-TRP is about. So Egypt Tourism Reform Program, the shorthand of it is E-TRP. It's missing an I, but anyway, the way I would pronounce it is E-TRP. So I just want to go over the pillars of this reform, but before that, I just want to give some statistics. Why does tourism matter? And here are some global statistics. It represents 10% of world's GDP. 1 in every 10 jobs is created in tourism. It accounts for $1.4 trillion in exports. 30% of the world's services exports come from tourism. 7% of the world's exports in general come from tourism. And then we have all of the other things related to that sector. There's economic growth, there's job creation, there's environment protection, there's cultural preservation, there's peace and security. Because really, tourism is about travel, people being able to move from one place to the other. As we saw from the video that Sylvia introduced, when people come and visit a country, they go back with impressions of safety, security, openness, which are all very important to maintain world peace.